The students in Classroom 127 at Seoul American High School completed a project-based learning activity to find out how a person who is confined to a wheelchair gets around the school and how to get to the school cafeteria, which is located on the middle school campus. This school is located about 5 minutes away if you are walking on foot. The students soon learned that there is no automatic button to leave the high school, and there was no automatic button to open the cafeteria if the person was using a wheelchair by themselves. The first order of business was to complete a learning log. Now, this is a strategy that our school adopted to increase higher order thinking. The students completed 4 parts. Understand the problem. How to get around the school in a wheelchair. Devise a plan. Ask Nurse On for permission to borrow the wheelchairs. Carry out the plan. Get out of the classroom and find out how does a person get around in a wheelchair. And look back to see what you learned. Complete Google presentations and blog in your kid blog about the experiences. And this is what we did at Seoul American High School. And here we are carrying out our plan. Wade asked for permission from Nurse On to borrow the wheelchair. Nurse On explained how to open and close the wheelchair, and she showed us how to get in and out of the wheelchair. We learned how to lock the wheels and also how to get through doorways going backwards in the wheelchair. Taking the wheelchair from Nurse On's office was a privilege, and she wanted to make sure we took good care of the wheelchairs and that we were safe as we used them around the school and on our way all the way down to the middle school cafeteria. We teamed up the students with a girls' team and a boys' team as they ran around the school taking photos and finding out if traveling by wheelchair was easy or hard to maneuver. The students worked with 2 paraprofessionals and me, the teacher, Mrs. Vanderveer. The boys found it difficult to go through the doors forward due to the threshold on the floor, and students continued to check out the inside of the building using a wheelchair, trying to go up and down the hallways, maneuvering that wheelchair to see how difficult it really was. The students first found an elevator that made it easy to get to the 2nd floor. The buttons to work the elevator were located inside the elevator and were convenient to use. Getting in the elevator with a wheelchair was the right fit. Even though it was a small elevator, the wheelchair still fit inside. Next, they found the bathrooms, where they found an extra wide stall, so the wheelchair fit in nicely. The seat was low enough, and he was able to wash his hands. But the problem they found was there was no paper towels in that stall. So as he exited the stall, he had to look for paper towels near the other sinks, and as you can see, there was a big garbage can right in the way. Next, they went into the auditorium, where they found a long ramp to help them get into the building to watch performances. After going through a few halls, they found a few water fountains, but only one where the wheelchair would fit underneath and they could reach to get a drink. They also found that the lower lockers to be a perfect fit for someone in a wheelchair. Taking this adventure was fun, as you can see by the smiles on their faces. Many teachers popped their heads out of their classrooms to see what they were up to. The library, too, had wide aisles between the bookshelves, and it was very friendly for somebody in a wheelchair. The time had ended, and it was time to return the wheelchair. Then it was back to classroom 127 for blogging. The kids learned how to use the site called KidBlog. Each student had their own KidBlog page to write about their experience using the wheelchair. We had some of our paraprofessionals also help the students who were unable to write out their own KidBlog. So we would put it on a wipe-off board and they would write it into the KidBlog. 4 out of the 5 students received speech and language services weekly from our speech teacher, Mrs. Brinson. She came to our classroom to help our students use the proper language to give directions from the high school to the middle school cafeteria. Mrs. Brinson used a wipe-off board so the students could visualize the map of the school and give directions. They needed to use words such as turn right, go about 10 steps, turn left, and go up the hill, instead of words such as go over there, just go that way. Here's a clip of our speech teacher working with our students. What are you working on right now?
Project.
The project? Project accessibility?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. And what exactly are you doing with your speech teacher right now?
We're doing a project.
Okay, but what exactly are you doing? Why are you drawing these lines on
What
here?
are we trying to solve? What problem are we trying to solve? From how to get from
The high school to get a wheelchair all the way to the top chair.
right.
It's funny how this stands for ages in high school.
That's right. We're trying to get down to the cafeteria. So what's that one, the one building right there?
That middle school.
Not right behind the football field. I don't think that's right.
No, that's good. You're good.
I'm good.
You're good to go.
Thank you for the confirmation, Brenda.
Yeah, welcome. It's a Friday, okay? So we need
Yes.
Friday.
Right, these are stairs. So this equals. Have you guys ever heard of a map?
On 2 other occasions, the students borrowed the wheelchair again from Nurse On. It was time to take the wheelchair outside of the building. But first they had to figure out what door to exit. There were 3 different exits to get out of this building, so the students tried all 3 ways to exit the building. Some exits even had stairs, and we couldn't use those with a wheelchair, so down the halls they went to the front door, where they found it did not have an automatic button, so a person in a wheelchair would have had to have someone help them to get out of the building. Also, the students did try to exit the building backwards, just like Nurse On had taught them. Finally, we were outside of the building. The students were told to ride in the wheelchair independently. We will make sure they are safe, but they had to drive the wheelchair by themselves. They found that the slightest decline made it difficult to handle the wheelchair. As one student soon found out, the sidewalks did not have a ramp, and she had to take her wheelchair far from the class just to get across the street. The class waited as she made her trek down the sidewalk. The students continued on with the ride down to the middle school, using the teacher assistants and the teacher to help them as they needed, but most of it had to be done by themselves. Many times they said, "Danger, danger," because it was a little scary when the wheelchair got loose. Well, the wheelchair did get loose once in a while, but we returned the wheelchair back to Nurse On. And it was back to classroom 127 for downloading photos, uploading photos to Google Presentation. Our students were each issued a laptop at the beginning of the school year, and they have learned independently how to turn on their own computers and locate the Google apps and the websites needed for blogging. The students were to present a slideshow on how handicap accessible our school is for someone in a wheelchair. The students each created a presentation that had to have 13 slides, which included the title page. The students shared their documents with each other so that they could use the comment section in Google to critique each other. Each student worked on their presentation daily. Some needed help from paraprofessionals and teachers for writing out their text, while others could work independently with only minimal help. When they were finished, they stood up in front of the class and presented their presentations. Overall, the students learned how fortunate they are to have 2 legs and can get around to the cafeteria in 5 minutes, whereas a person in a wheelchair took well over 30 minutes, with all the obstacles they encountered. Please take a moment to visit my blog, coetail.com/tveire, to see the presentations by my students. At Seoul American High School, we also have a newsletter that goes home to the parents. I gave the editor the article about our project, and he posted it in the newsletter for the parents to understand what we were doing. I want to take this time now to thank Coetail for the 5 classes that I had. I enjoyed every bit of it, and now I feel like I'm one of these guys. Also, I'd like to thank my husband for all of the time he put up with me and all the late hours of working on my project. Thanks.